But just to start off with, a career in real estate, I've very specifically chosen that word. This is not a job. A career, and actually I looked it up on Google. A career is defined as a course or progress through life or a distinct portion of life. An occupation or profession, a sequence of related jobs pursued within a single industry or sector. And I think that real estate is a fantastic career. I also think it's a lousy job. And one of the reasons I say that is because a career, as per the description I've just read, really is an accumulation of experience, a rehoning, a refining of skills, adding knowledge, and you get better and better. That's the purpose of a career. If it's not to get better and better, then what would the point be? A job is something that just sounds and is, I think, by definition, a little bit more boring. Certainly, real estate is something that has to be seen long term. Very few people start real estate and make a lot of money in a short period of time. Those people who have been in real estate for a long time, like myself, I've been in real estate for over 30 years. Certainly, I've seen how year upon year, my income, my job satisfaction, and my ability to perform in this business has grown and grown and grown. So let me do a screen share now, get that going. I don't believe it, that's dropped down. It'll take me a moment to pop it up, so excuse me, there we go. And there's the screen share. Okay, so you should be seeing a screen now that says a career in real estate. Is it a career for me? Presenter Andre de Villiers. And let's just go to what I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover what estate agents actually do to make money. I'm going to cover, are you the right personality type, which is absolutely critical. So I'll spend a little bit more time on that. The nature of real estate organizations, it's very important you know the differences because you need to make choices. Finance, can you afford to start this career? Critical. And then I'm going to give you some advice with a bit of research on how to do your own homework. So that's me. You've seen my picture. These always are better pictures than the ones in the live broadcast because I've just woken up and it's very hot already. So the reason why I feel confident in giving anyone advice is because I have a lot of experience. I've been in this business for well over 30 years. I've been in sales. I've been in management. I've been in marketing, and I love training, which is what I'm going to be doing a lot of focus on in 2016. I'm going to be building on my training career. I've done well in all of those things, and am well able to speak on all aspects of how you sell property, the management of the real estate business itself, the various aspects of marketing, which I also thoroughly enjoy. I've been very involved with international real estate as well as South African real estate. From a personal level, I've been fortunate in receiving industry awards, not just awards from the particular brands that I've been with. I've done training for the Institute of Estate Agents, for example, and I have invested a lot in real estate. Being in real estate for 30 years has given me the opportunity to invest in real estate. And I have properties in Europe, I have properties in South America, and I have properties here in South Africa. I live in Wynberg in Cape Town, in Wynberg Park, on the border between Bishop's Gorton and Wynberg, lovely area, and I've got my 3 golden retrievers, and I'm married to Romeo Santana, who's an architect from Brazil. So that's me. My interests, not that that's something you're probably too worried about, but in that picture at the top there, and it is a bit relevant to my presentation, you'll see on the top right, that's my farm in Brazil. That's my husband with his sort of showing you where the farm starts and more or less where it goes to. And on the left-hand side, there's a picture from a couple of people for an organization that I very proudly sponsor, and that's called a PALM. It's an association that protects animals. Primarily what we do is we look after street dogs in the sterilization campaign, and I'm mentioning that to you because I will give you a website at the end of my presentation, and you might want to make a donation to a farm if you were motivated to do so, but that's entirely up to you. So let's start. Okay, our job. What do we do that we actually get paid for? You obviously have some idea about what estate agents do. You know, they do show houses on Sunday. You know, they write advertisements and put them in the paper, and they take buyers to go along and look at properties. And, you know, that side of things is obvious. What is not obvious is that I would say that successful estate agents, and that's really what I want to talk about, because I know what some agents do and don't get paid for, and that we don't need to focus on. But what estate agents do that do well and what they get paid for is they build relationships. And I would say 50% of an estate agent's work time is understanding the need to build a circle of influence. And that is a real estate term, so forgive me for using it, but a circle of influence is fundamentally the foundation to any estate agent's business. It is the contacts that you have. It is the absolute foundation. And today, it's so important to utilize technology to build that circle of influence. I would say without a doubt that in my 30 years, I've built up an enormous number of contacts, expanding that circle of influence. And I would say within the last year or two, I've probably doubled that because of my ability to engage with technology, use technology to engage on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So I've become very, very much more conscious of the power and impact on massively improving through using technology your relationships. Now, relationships is not just making contact with people. Relationships are something you have to invest in. You have to build on them. You have to manage them. And you've got to do it in a way that makes people happy and like you and trust you. It's no good just having massive contact with people and annoying them. So, you know, there's a whole skill to this, and I do a whole course specifically on relationship management, which will be no surprise if I tell you that 50% of your time in real estate is about expanding that circle of influence. There's a lot of misconceptions about real estate, and one of them is about what agents are doing on a day-to-day basis. So if you're now thinking of a pie chart, and I've covered 50%, let's look at the other 50% of what an estate agent is doing on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, the goal is to make sales. Make sales that remain binding contracts, not deals that fall through. So we are involved in finding sellers and finding buyers and putting them together. The process of finding sellers and finding buyers and the importance that applies to that, it's very important to understand that a good estate agent is very focused on sellers. That relationship building is primarily focused on being in a position to get a contract from a seller to go ahead and sell their property. You can't give that focus to buyers because a buyer cannot reasonably expected to stick with you and you alone in their quest to find the right home. They need to buy the home that's right for them within their budget that they come across through wherever they are looking for real estate, whether it's show houses or online or in a magazine, whatever the case may be. So an estate agent understands that their focus has to be on sellers, because with a seller, the seller can make a commitment to you to make that choice, to give you and hopefully you alone the contract or mandate to sell that property. How to do that and why it's a good thing for the seller and certainly a good thing for the agent and actually a good thing for everyone concerned, that is another complete training course that I do on doing presentations to get contracts. But focusing on that process for purposes of our conversation today is what we're identifying as a very important part of an estate agent's job. Marketing and managing marketing both of properties and of yourself, your personal promotion are two other aspects of an estate agent's job that they'd have to worry about on a daily and weekly basis. An agent needs to be positioned in a marketplace, in whatever marketplace they are working in. That might be a property type specific, or it might be in a particular geographic area. But marketing both their real estate to a very broad audience and marketing themselves to a more narrow, defined audience, particularly of sellers, potential sellers, is a very important part of an agent's job every single day. Then, of course, the idea of the obvious requirement of being able to take buyers that have responded to marketing, qualify those buyers so that you know you're not wasting their time and your time, and introducing them to properties in the right way, showing properties the right way. These are all skills, and they take up quite a bit of an agent's time, because obviously this is a bit like a funnel. The more contact that you have with people, the more showings that you have with houses, the more and the more skilled you get at that, at showing the right people, the right properties, the more chances you get of a person wanting to purchase the property, wanting to make an offer. Then, of course, we have the documentation that has to be done. This scares a lot of people for no reason whatsoever, because you'll get hold of your manager until you can do it alone. So you'll get hold of your mentor, your manager, to help you with that. So a contract gets drawn up. And yes, we are a paralegal business, so your knowledge about that is important, but not something that should scare you, because you'll always have help with that. Then the contract gets drawn up, and usually the sale that has resulted gets handed over to a sales administrator, or you administer the sale yourself and tie the whole process together with the transferring attorneys, the banks, or the mortgage broker, as it may be, and all the other parties that are involved. When I cover the different types of real estate companies, I'll cover a little bit more about the administration side, because it's something you may never have to bother about at all in some companies, or it's something you may have to do yourself. So let's move on again to the personality type, because for me, this really is the critical area. This is not a difficult job. It is a job that requires a lot more skill than knowledge. It requires a lot more discipline. It requires a lot more focus. It requires a lot of self-motivation. So when we're looking at areas like that, we really have to look at it from the point of view of, is this actually the right job for me because of my personality? You really can't change the personality you are. So it's a very good idea to start off the whole investigation of a career in real estate in understanding the type of personality that you are. And I would suggest that you rather do this professionally. You don't just make some assumptions about who you think you are, but to actually do it professionally. Now, on the screen there, you've got a website called 16personalities.com. It's completely free. There's nothing to buy. You can go to 16personalities.com and you can do a test online, and it'll give you an incredibly comprehensive and valuable report about your personality type. Of course, there are paid for options that you can take it a little bit further if you find it interesting enough to want to make the investment for however many dollars it costs. But basically, you're going to see that you land up being in I know quadrant means four, but and there are four quadrants here. You've got your analysts, your diplomats, your sentinels, and your explorers. But within that, you're also going to find various personality types. I'm the top right there, the debater, as a personality type, and you're going to find you something along there. And it's very important because you must know your personality type to understand both your strengths and your weaknesses. Every single personality type has got strengths and weaknesses. And if you don't really understand yourself very well, for you to apply your personality type within real estate, actually within any business, but I just think it's an absolutely critical starting point for anybody, because you need to know where you where you need to refine your own weaknesses and what strengths you can work with. So without paying too much more attention to that right now, I suggest you do go to 16personalities.com and do their free test. And one of the reasons for this is the nature of the real estate business is quite, I'll use the word emotional, because it's a business with lots of highs and lows. And it is also a business with what I said there on the screen, feast and famine. There is a lack of an externally imposed routine and structure. So generally speaking, it's really necessary for you to be, to have the ability to motivate yourself, to organize yourself. It requires a lot of self-discipline. It is not the role of the manager in the office to motivate you. I just really don't believe that. It's the role of the manager and the staff in a real estate environment to provide the infrastructure for a self-motivated person to be productive and operate efficiently. So you need to be the type of person who can actually handle your own emotional ups and downs. Because trust me, there's nothing better and there's no better high than when you've done a deal. It doesn't matter if it's a big deal or if it is a small deal. It feels fantastic. It is wonderful. And you've got a happy clients. You've got someone who's found the home of their dreams. People sell properties for good reasons. They're happy they've done a deal. You've got a win-win situation and you feel like a champion. And you've made good money in the process. It is a fantastic feeling. You've got a whole lot of work and effort to get there. And sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes there's a whole lot of work and effort that gets there and you can see that commission check and you can see happy clients and you can see, and then something goes wrong and everyone suddenly, that marvelous, wonderful person who thought you were just the bee's knees is really unhappy with you. And the whole thing goes sour and nobody wants to talk. It can be just really awful. And you've got to deal with that and you've got to cope with it, and you've got to carry on, with hopefully marketing the property and remarket and resell it, etc. And it can be emotionally very taxing, and you absolutely have to have the ability to deal with this. One of the most important things I will always stress with a new agent is to understand the difference between skills and knowledge. Knowledge is the technical thing. When you complete a contract, you need to do this here, and you've got to have an initial down there, and you've got all this. That's all knowledge stuff. Skills is about how to do things more effectively, how to actually get results, how to make sure people are happy taking your advice and going through the purchase process, the selection process, how a person is going to choose you as opposed to choose someone else to sell their house. Those are all areas that are about skills. Management is fundamentally there to help you with knowledge, and knowledge nowadays is available. You can Google it, but more realistically, you can ask somebody who's experienced in the office, like your manager or like your mentor, if you're an intern, which is a term we'll use for a brand new agent, and that person's there to help you and give you guidance and to make sure that in terms of knowledge, that you have access to it. And that's the most important thing about knowledge, is knowing where to go to, how to get access to it reliably, and being able to ask for it without thinking that, oh gosh, I should know this, so I better just, you don't guess. You find out what the answer is. But skills, that's the difference between a good agent, a great agent, and somebody else who just sells a little bit. The difference is fundamentally the balance between their personality type and understanding their personality type and their skills development. My training is about skills development. I do very little training about knowledge because you can get it anywhere. But when you do skills development, you want to really do training with someone who has a passion for it. So, we'll talk about various training that I offer on my website when you want to go there and have a look at it, which is brandu.co.za. But enough of that. Philosophy to deal with ups and downs. I've already covered a bit of that, but I've got in brackets there close relationships. There are two things why people who have got the right personality and who develop the skills don't make it. The one is they don't have the financial resources to see them through. As I say, this is a career. This is something you build layer upon layer upon layer over time and by your skills development. If you don't have the money to get yourself going and to sustain yourself as you build the career, well, that's one reason why people fall out. I'm talking about people who really should stay with it. The other reason is this: close relationships. This is a type of business that becomes pretty all-encompassing. It's a business that you start to dream about. And what I mean about that is, you're dreaming of the deal and, oh my gosh, is that the right house for this person? And should I be doing, you just think about real estate all the time when you start real estate. It becomes quite an obsession. And it demands time. Excuse me. It demands time. Take a sip of water. That is not 9 to 5. That's a good and a bad thing. The good thing is you can probably build into your day your trip to the gym at a time that the gym's empty. The bad thing is when everybody else is taking time off, like a Sunday afternoon, you're on show. And you really want to be on show as much as you possibly can be. Very often, when everyone thinks, okay, it's time for dinner, you get the opportunity to go and do a second showing on a house for someone who's really really keen, and they want to go and have a second viewing of the house. Well, you don't, for a second viewing, you go, you facilitate it, and off you go, and the family gets on with dinner without you. Now, if that's going to cause unpleasantness and an unnecessary pressure on you in your home environment, you need to think about that. And you also need to discuss it up front and make sure your family is on your side with this and they've thought about it and they are committed to it. Not, oh, well, give it a go and see how it is. And no. You need to make sure that your partner, your significant other, and your children understand that there are going to be some changes and that they're going to support you with it. Right, let's just touch one other topic, and we're making pretty good time here. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, I'm talking about the agents, and obviously over 30 years, I've really seen such a massive difference. When I started in real estate 30 years ago, it was very easy to identify what a top agent was. It was quite simply that person, usually a woman, because we had a tremendous imbalance. 30 years ago, 80% of estate agents were women, and a lot of them were part-time, not the good ones. There's never been superstar agents that were part-time. Forget about it. This is not a part-time business. But you would have, to identify good agents 30 years ago, it would usually be a woman, and she would have been in the area for a long time already working in real estate, and everyone knew her, and she was out and about, and she'd just been around for a long time. Whether she was a great, happy, charming, wonderful person or some miserable old cow, she was usually someone who had just been around for a long time. And I've given this a lot of thought, but of course the difference is obvious. Over a period of time, the way we can market ourselves as professional people and the way it is done and the way it can be done because of technology and changes in media, well, that's revolutionized everything. It's revolutionized everything in every type of business. But in the real estate environment, wow, it's just a whole different ball game. And I talk about tomorrow's agent is needed now, because you have to be so ahead of the game in terms of technology that if you embrace that, you're going to just be at such a huge advantage. And I know from personal experience and also from observing those agents who've come into the business and within a very short period of time are right up there. And if you analyze, as I do, what they've done, then you can see how they have used technology to engage in a meaningful way with more and more people. Now, I mentioned in the beginning, my circle of influence has grown so much in the last 2 years compared to the last 30. If I look back now at the people that I knew and met and interacted with, 25 years ago, I wasn't keeping good records and making sure. I just didn't have that organization, and I didn't have access to the technology. I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers things like Beltel, but some of the technology we were using in those days, it was so limited. It's actually a joke now when you look at now. You look at what's available in terms of customer relationship management programs, in terms of Facebook, how you can do targeted ads on Facebook to people who live in a very particular area, in a particular age range, with particular interests. The ability to target advertising, whether it is on Google or Facebook or other social media, or just to reach so many people through your own social media interaction, for example, it's mind-boggling. Then, of course, we've got the differences in technology and using that technology to do things like create floor plans, virtual tours, have drones taking aerial photography. Now, of course, you don't have to do all of these things, but you have to be really aware of them and how they can help you and who specializes in what to be able to make sure you can offer clients what they need, because they do need it. 90% of buyers use online media. Usually that's really amounts to the property portals to assist them in their property searches. So it's very important that you think online. I do have agents who battle with this. They usually are older agents, and they think that being able to send and receive emails is what I'm talking about. No. And there's another quality which I'm going to build into this little discussion we're having now about technology. And the quality is immediacy. People expect that when they make an inquiry about something, that they're going to get a response immediately. They do not, if someone writes a letter and posts it with a stamp, and your chances are you'll never get it in this, but okay. Somebody sends a communication to you, they expect a certain type of response time. So, okay, nobody sends letters. But if someone sends an email, they expect to get a response from you within a couple of hours. If someone sends an SMS, they expect a response from you in a couple of minutes. And if you're going to put yourself in a position of being a professional estate agent, you have to understand that, appreciate it, respect it, and respond appropriately. And it's a very, very important aspect of being today's estate agent. Bit of a bugbear of mine, as you can tell. Sometimes I monitor my emails and the emails I send out, and I can see my own agent. Sometimes I get a response, like 2 days later to something that I've sent out, and it's different types of agencies. Very important aspect for you to consider when you're thinking of a career in real estate. And there's a balance here between three things. Your personality type, I've covered that. I've told you how to go and discover more about yourself. The second thing is the marketplace that you actually work in. I'm going to come to that now. But the third part of that is the type of estate agency that you work with. And all these three things are really important, and they sit on this foundation of the support that you're going to get from home and your ability to financially pursue this career. So, focusing on the type of agencies, there really are three types. The conventional, traditional type of estate agency is one where you join them and the commission that results in the sales that you make is going to be shared usually on a sort of 50-50 basis. And in return, the estate agency will cover a whole lot of costs related to the marketing of properties and related to your operation as an estate agent in terms of office space and telephone and the access to the various marketing that may or may not include things like drone photography and obviously advertising in a newspaper and advertising on some of the property portals and also administering the sale. So there's the office environment. The administrative environment is usually provided to the agent who's affiliated to that type of company in return for the agent really focusing on doing deals, finding buyers, finding sellers, putting the deals together, and handling the marketing of the particular property. So that's the traditional structure that most people are familiar with. But there are two others that are worth mentioning. There are also companies that offer a high commission share, and the quid pro quo is in return for 80% of the commission, or their marketing will cover all sorts of figures that can be even higher than that. And you need to read the fine print very, very carefully, because what you've got to do is have a look and say, right, okay, here is a very, very high commission share being offered, and the quid pro quo is I have to pick up a lot of expenses. So these agencies normally rent office space. They provide the administrative and operational environment to you, but you pay for it on a fixed monthly cost, and there may be some overriders depending on a couple of different recipes that they provide. But usually your contribution to the risk, and which is the overheads in a business, is quite a lot higher. So the risks are for the owner of the company, normally called a broker, are a lot lower. So in return, you get a lot more of the commission on a deal. Personally, I think for a person who's starting off in real estate, you'd have to think very carefully about your financial ability because you can certainly increase your overheads and your costs very substantially in that type of structure. But there's no right or wrong. It really depends on you, depends on your resources, depends on your personality, the degree to which you like to work alone, the degree with which you like to work as a team. A lot of the structures that are out there from companies that provide the very high commission shares are the team environment is very different. There's a lot more competition between everybody in the office because it usually goes hand in hand with you being able to work on anything, anywhere, whereas in the more traditional environment, usually the team is a stronger focus, and this one's doing that area, and that one's doing that type of property, etc., etc. So there's a lot more room for cooperation. The third type is where it's not hugely prominent in South Africa. It's a lot more prominent in Europe and in America. There are a lot more brands that people would recognize. This is where a seller decides, no, they don't want to pay a regular estate agent's commission. They feel that what they would prefer is to get assistance from an estate agent, and they would work with that estate agent, paying them a retainer or a lower percentage in return for that person helping them sell the house themselves. So the agent would step in to give them advice about this and that. The agent may play a role in giving, in maybe negotiating the actual sale. And of course, a lot of different variations. These are usually what the industry would call the discount commission operations. Again, there's no right or wrong. It depends very much on what the market is looking for. And as far as you're concerned, again, it depends on your personality type as well. You might find one structure that I've mentioned out of these three more appealing than another. But you've also got to take it one step further, if I sort of put those three types to one side, and that is the focus of the agency. Now, one agency may have a stronger focus on rentals. Another agency might have a stronger focus on commercial property. Some agencies will put everything together. They sell farms, they do rentals, they do the whole bang shoot. Some agencies may focus entirely on apartments, just sectional title. Or they may have a division that focuses entirely on sectional title, or a division that has a very specific focus on industrial, or whatever the case may be. So this goes back to your personality type very strongly. You'll find that you might be far more suited to rentals as opposed to residential sales. The requirement of an agent for residential sales is totally different to that of a commercial agent, where there's a lot more analysis and a lot, there's horses for courses. The important thing is that you look at yourself, you look at the different type of agencies that are out there, and you basically make a decision that's going to work for you in terms of putting this recipe together. I have definitely seen people who should have been very successful not realize their ambitions, and after a period of time, which I'm afraid was mostly wasted because they didn't do their homework properly, they didn't consider their personality type properly, they just started off with the wrong thing, and then they've moved to a different type of agency, or they've moved to a different type of real estate market, or a different area, and they've done very well. So the recipe is not one anyone can give you. It's an awareness of the need to create a recipe that works. Agencies vary, obviously, in terms of the size, and that also might work for you a lot better. Some people are much happier within a bigger branch of a national franchise or international franchise group, where you must know that that company is going to be a lot more focused on the number of agents. Their recruitment process is probably a far more important focus for them. There are other agencies that are very small, very intimate, and they are more we call mom and pop type shops, and they very. It's not to be. I'm certainly not trying to be rude about them. Your small operations, there are plenty of examples. They've been around usually for a long time. They're very involved around the personality of the particular broker, but they created a very nice, close environment that suits some personality types where you're working very closely with a team. That suits some people a lot more as well. I've just mentioned you get your national franchise groups. You also get companies that own their own branches. So the person you're going to be interfacing a lot with at the office is going to be a manager and not the owner of the business. Then you need to know that that manager might go and a new manager comes in and things can change. So you always need to be very self-reliant. You need to be aware of that environment. Okay, I've covered that topic, I think, well enough. By the way, the picture I've chosen there, for those that you know who've traveled a bit, that's San Francisco, and those houses, really, it's the row of houses that I think are the most beautiful in the world. I love these old Victorians, and it's up on, I think it's the area in San Francisco, which I've been to 3 times, mostly for real estate conventions. The area is called Nob Hill. I think, I might stand for correction, and I know this row of houses is called the Something Sisters. Why I've got a picture of San Francisco and not something in Cape Town, I'm not too sure actually. But yeah, this bit of my conversation is about your finances. I have touched on this. How much money do you need to start your real estate career? Now, first of all, I am preparing a checklist which you'll be able to download for free from my website. I'll give that to you at the end. It'll be a PDF that you can download. And I'm putting together, it's not there yet, I'm putting together a list of the costs from a South African point of view, because obviously there are those of you that are watching this that are from anywhere in the world. I don't even know where everyone is. That's a wonderful thing about technology. But you can download that. You can have a look at the costs for a South African person that is starting off a real estate career. Your costs are divided into a couple of different categories. First of all, you've got let's say the statutory costs. That's an appropriate word. Your statutory costs are, you have to do certain things in terms of your licensing and your registration. And then is a certain type of training that you have to do in terms of moving from a registered status estate agent over a period of time, which is definitely going to take a year minimum, but probably a bit more than that. And during that period of time, you will be an intern, and you will I think I should cover a little bit between interns and mentors as well, because that's an important part of this. But there's a whole lot of cost there. Easily, you're looking at 3,000 Rand minimum. If you're going to be making a couple of notes, and I would probably put down 4,000 Rand. It does vary who does training, and this is a particular type of training that I don't do. But it is training that's required by the Estate Agency Affairs Board for you to qualify and be registered and to do your requirements. So putting that 4,000 aside, you've also got to worry about your transport and communication. So let me just pop over to the next slide there to help me remember these things. You've got your costs of transport and communications, and of course that's going to vary quite a lot. But please, you don't do a pay-as-you-go telephone where sometimes you've got airtime and sometimes you don't have airtime. Your cell phone, and you have to have a smartphone. Your smartphone is just something that has got to be always working and always available, and you've just got to learn to manage your expenses as much as you possibly can. The training costs that you also need to budget for are something that is really, I'm not talking about the statutory training, but your skills development training, the type of training that I do and others do. If you don't invest in developing your skills, you significantly restrict the ability to earn an income. You just cannot expect to do as well as you could do if you don't know how to do things in the very best ways. You're going to, through the course of time, by knocking your head against the proverbial brick wall, you will learn that that's wrong and that works and this. But time is money. If you can learn how to do things more quickly and more effectively because you can enhance your skills in a shorter period of time and apply that, it's going to make a heck of a difference to the money that you actually put into your bank account, and also your satisfaction with doing this job and the type of service that you will be able to deliver. So your cost of skills development training is something you need to think of. Home equipment, again, depending on your relationship with the office and the type of real estate company you're with, this may or may not be a significant amount of money. I do like to work from home. I've always liked to work a lot from home. So there's certain things that you're going to want, I think, to have at home in terms of equipment costs that you want to think about. Then use your personal marketing costs. This is something a lot of people don't think about whatsoever. Real estate, as I said, 50% of your time is actually developing your sphere of influence. This is personal marketing. This is not marketing houses. This is not marketing properties. This is developing relationships, marketing yourself so that you're in a position to be in contact with people that you can actually start creating and managing relationships with you. There are personal marketing costs there that are significant. You want to invest in the right software that's going to help you do this properly. So personal advertising, that's why I call my company Brand You. This is, together with skills development training, an area which I love training about. All right, I've hopefully given you a good idea within the time frame. I've been prattling away quite fast to catch up with the time due to our late start. I apologize once again. But if you have a look at that website, brandyou.co.za/software downloads, at the software download section, you're going to find information you can download that are helpful. I'm going to ask you to come back in a few days' time and have a look at that site again, because I'm busy with quite a few free PDFs that you can download. There are different types of checklists and guides to assist you in your decision and your research as to what is required to become an estate agent. I've also got software. I've spent a lot of time evaluating software that is affordable and that is absolutely highly recommended for purposes of managing information and for personal marketing, usually going into those two areas. Also, it's not something I do, because I think there's a lot of people out there that just do it better than me. So areas of, I would call it motivational training. It's I put links for motivational training on there as well. There's a lot of good stuff available that's free of charge. There's also good stuff available that will cost you a little bit of money. So basically in that area on my website, I put quite a bit of information. So do your homework. It's the most important thing. I'm going to repeat what I said. Too often I've seen people who have tremendous ability to do very well in real estate, and they make the wrong choices when they start in terms of the area that they're going to work, in terms of being honest with themselves about their personality type and their suitability for that area or for that type of market in terms of the property type, whether it's commercial or residential or sectional title or the type of agency that they affiliate with. So do your homework. It's going to help you put together a recipe for your success. Yes, I wanted to just mention a bit about the mentor. If you're an intern agent in South Africa, you're going to need to have a mentor. It's a requirement. It might be in a smaller agency that the mentor might be your broker, or it might be, there may be a structure in that particular office that you need to ask about, and you need to make sure that it's okay. It needs to be fair. Don't take on a mentor that's going to cost you nothing. Even if the person said, okay, don't worry, I'll be your mentor and it's going to cost you nothing. You want to incentivize the person who is your mentor. You create the incentive. Get that person to take a very real interest in your future and your development, in your status change from intern to fully qualified estate agent. You want that person to be engaged with you, not just to do the minimum to meet the requirement. So it's something you need to, again, think of in terms of doing your homework. Just 3 little things I want to remind you of. We were born to be real. We were not born to be perfect. This business is about relationships. If you're going to think you're going to be successful by trying to pretend to be things, trying to pretend to be this type of, I don't know. It's very important to be real, to be honest and position yourself in a way that you're going to be comfortable in your own skin and people are going to find it comfortable to work with you. We all know people who pretend. And no one's comfortable working with people like that. In real estate, it's so important that your client feels comfortable with you and has an almost immediate engagement with you. And people do that when they know they're dealing with a person who is honest and straightforward and real. Hopefully you know what I'm communicating here, what I'm trying to communicate. It's just an important aspect of people don't mind if they're not working with someone who isn't the most experienced agent in the world. They really don't. I've seen it far too often to think that everybody wants to work with the most experienced person in town. It's really not true. What people want is someone who cares about them. The people want to work with someone who gives them confidence, who gives them rational reasons, and people they feel a connection with. So being real is really important. Learning, the image I popped there for learning, yes, knowledge, but most importantly, skills. Embrace it, enjoy it, and do it. If you don't, it will cost you so much money in deals you will never do. The best success stories often begin with failure. Don't expect massive success immediately. Certainly expect success, but you can expect success if you are doing things the right way, if you are enhancing your skills, and if you listen to advice, sometimes skeptically. Nothing wrong with that. One thing's for sure, when you start in a real estate environment, everyone will tell you what you should be doing. And a lot of it will be nonsense because people will tell you what works for them, which may not be what works for you and your personality. Going back to be real, be real. You've got to do things that work for you. You've got to find that recipe for success by looking at your own qualities. So don't be discouraged if you start and you have some dreadful experiences in the beginning where things don't work out. It happened to me. The very first property I sold was a guy who was a complete bullshitter and who was trying to impress a girl who I think was probably not much more than a prostitute. And he brought her along to our house, bought the house then and there. I was so excited about this deal. I could hardly complete the document properly. In fact, I know I didn't complete it properly. I had everything written in the wrong place because I was a nervous wreck. And everything was false. False name, false phone number, false everything, false girlfriend. I mean, he was just trying to be big book with a car that he'd probably hired. And I was so totally and utterly, I was devastated because I'd made a fool of myself. I mean, I had bought them champagne and everybody in the office knew I'd had this deal and I told everybody, and my gosh, it was just a whole lot of nonsense. These things are going to happen. So the best success stories often begin with failure. Don't be discouraged. Okay, my website up there. If you are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to put a comment at the bottom. Subscribe to my channel. That's the website, brandyou.co.za. Just a reminder again for apalm.info. There's the website. I'm not going to do a hard sell. If you feel that this helped you, if this webinar was of some value to you, you might want to consider a donation to Apalm, a couple of dollars. You can pay through PayPal. All volunteers, nobody at Apalm gets paid anything other than the vet, who is not part of Apalm, but who does the operations for us at a very discounted price. So the sterilization campaign that we run, you can find out some more information in English on apalm.info. If you read Portuguese, you can go to our Brazilian website, which is apalm.com.br. In Brazil, the ending for Brazilian websites is .com.br. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to end the broadcast. I'm going to then stay online to deal with questions and answers. So the broadcast will end. That will wrap it up for the YouTube presentation, which is obviously a replay and available. If you want to come through, you can fast forward to different sections if you want to listen to something again. And you can also subscribe for future webinars that I'll be giving. So I'm going to stop the broadcast now. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful New Year this evening. And have a wonderful New Year for 2016. When I say New Year this evening, I'm making this broadcast on the 31st of December. So I'm talking about New Year's Eve. Thank you and goodbye.